And welcome to Rotisserie Chicken. I'm Anna Leckie.
I'm Jacob Worthington.
This is the podcast where we bring you weird, supernatural, strange, and weird, curious human events. And we like to dig deep into this and explore the psychology and the weird activities behind everything. And so if you enjoy that, you'll enjoy us. And I think today marks our 23rd episode.
Yeah, this will be the 23rd.
That's 23 big ones. If we had a nickel for every episode we had, we would have almost a
quarter. Yeah, not $1. Yo, a nickel. Yeah. Let's do
Whoa! Clearly.
Sorry. Math's not my strong suit.
So, you know. Wow. If we had a nickel for every episode, we would have almost $1.25.
Okay.
Yeah. Think about that. Okay, so today we're going to go over, don't look at my nails, don't look at these two nails. I'm only going to speak with these three fingers for the rest of the episode, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to talk about weird performance art throughout history. And performance art is something that I've studied before because, you know, I have a theater degree.
What?
Yeah.
A theater degree?
Mm-hmm. I have a theater undergraduate degree.
It's news to me. Mm-hmm. Very fascinating.
So you wouldn't know because I don't make any money.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
You wouldn't know from my lack of capitalization on the degree. Mm-hmm. But I, in fact, trained in theater and performance. And we studied performance art because it is kind of an emergence of conceptual art and theatrical performance.
Yeah, it's in the name.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm glad you're here with us today. How do you feel about performance art?
Sometimes it makes me uncomfortable. Though I feel like the way you feel about clowns is the way I feel about performance art.
Well, the way I feel about clowns is a feeling of general annoyance.
That's the way I feel about performance art.
Really? Regardless of what the subject... I mean, because it's so vast.
I mean, I find some of it interesting, but I don't know. Some of it just comes off as really pretentious. Like, I saw this one where these people had, like... I'm sure people have seen this YouTube or TikTok video where it's, like, a dude and he's, like, on crutches and he's wearing this crotch piece that has, like, a long pole on it. Mm-hmm. And he crutches up to another pole and then he just starts slapping his crotch pole against, like, a hanging pole. And he, like, looks at the audience and goes... And there's a bunch of people in the background doing the same thing. And I'm like, I don't care for this.
Some of it's super strange. And what we're going to get into today is kind of... It's the middle of the road weird for performance art. And while I was doing my research, I found a lot of really vile and just grotesque and gruesome...
We're not going to do that.
...things there's a lot of debauchery, and so we're not going to explore those pieces. We're going to explore the kind of more weird side. So
we've decided that we are the shallow end of the investigation pool. We don't want to go too deep while simultaneously not getting too upsetting. We like obscure and weird, but we don't want to get into like the downright disturbing. Right. It's just not our flavor, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I said it once and I'll say it again. We piggy dip.
We piggy dip. We piggy dippers.
We piggy dip.
Maybe one day we'll do deep dives where we'll read books rather than internet articles. But for now, we just piggy dipping, baby.
Yeah, we piggy dipping. And, you know, it's just us two when we do research on things. So we don't have a deep dive for most subject matter yet.
And Mariah. But she just doesn't.
Mariah's over there. Say hey, Mariah.
Shut up, Mariah. She can barely read.
So let's go ahead and go over what is performance art. And just for anybody who's unfamiliar, who thinks, okay, there's either theater, there's art, there's no in between. So performance art is a wild boundary pushing art that artists use their bodies, environments, and actions to kind of create a live experience for people. It's art that lives in the moment. So this is sometimes messy, sometimes uncomfortable, like Jacob was saying, always unforgettable. It can be single gesture, like standing still for hours at a time in a public place, or something extreme like chopping into a fake limb, which we'll get into. It's about the act itself, and it's not necessarily a published or really fully thought out product. Sometimes there's improvisation involved. Yeah. Do you have any questions about that so far?
Not yet. I was just thinking of one that I saw where they like vacuum sealed people. Mm-hmm. You seen that one?
That's a strange one. I think you've told me about that.
They're like vacuum sealed, like they're like chicken cutlets. And they have like a little tube they're like breathing in. And they were in there for like 8 or 9 hours.
Just, that would be so uncomfortable.
They could like kind of move, but like they had to like slowly squirm over time to change position.
I'm pretty claustrophobic, and that just makes me feel like,
oh yeah,
just thinking about it. So,
I'm not a chicken cutlet.
So performance art is this kind of overarching thing, and again, it can kind of be anything you want to do within it, and it's covered the categories of violence to sex to exhibitionism to nudity, and it's very strange. So why does it even matter? And I think the gist is that performance art kind of shakes up the art scene. It makes things not in a nutshell predictable, and that's always appreciated with art and in the art world. It forces the onlooker to question what's normal and what's beautiful and what's even allowed to be portrayed. I think sometimes the legality of some of this performance art is questioned, because if it is pushing the boundary or something is a little bit more on the legal side, there have been times where these things were allowed because it was in the defense of art. So what would normally be completely illegal, like public nudity, in parts of America would be legal if it was an art showcase, which is kind of strange. Not everywhere, but at Dynamic El Dorado, a comedy venue in Atlanta, you can smoke inside. Really?
As long as it's part of the performance.
That's a great example. I didn't even know that, but
you do have to pay the guy who owns the place like $20, but he'll let you smoke a cigarette on stage.
That's interesting.
But he had to get a burlesque license. So having a burlesque license allows him to like do other stuff in the venue than a regular venue would be allowed to do.
That's interesting. Did you see Dave Chappelle's latest SNL hosting?
Smoked a cigarette on
stage. I'm like, I don't know if that's just because it's Dave Chappelle and he can do whatever he wants.
I think he can do whatever he wants. So.
Yeah. So performance artists tackle big ideas. They attack, some of the things are identity, pain, society, and it sticks with you longer than something like an Instagram post or reel that you might scroll over would. People describe it as a gut punch or a mirror to society, something that's a weird fever dream that you can't unsee. And it's been a playground for outsiders and rebels in the art world to say things that, again, they couldn't really say otherwise. And there's a lot of legality. Okay, so let's go over this really quick, because we're going to cover some things that are going to make you question why this was allowed to be a public art form. Can you do anything and call it art? Not quite.
You could. That doesn't mean it is.
You could call it art, but
you can do whatever you want.
But it wouldn't
call it art.
It wouldn't keep you safe from arrest. So public stunts, oftentimes things that involve bodily harm, they skirt the edge of what's allowed. So some artists have been arrested, fined, shut down mid-performance, but courts give leeway if it's clearly artistic expression. There's always a line. You can't go detonate a bomb in the middle of a public square and call it performance art. So, yeah. So before we get into it, do you have any questions about the art that is performance?
No. I did see one that was kind of cool, though.
I said questions, not comments.
Okay, never mind.
I'm just kidding.
Then I'm out of that. I saw one where this guy was talking about how he's an artist and none of his art ever got noticed or picked up or placed in these galleries. And so he went to one of the galleries and he had a big clear bag and he put $1 million fake dollars in it. And he just walked around with a bag filled with $1 million.
Yeah.
And then everybody was just super engaged with him. It was like, oh, we would love to promote your stuff and blah, 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 blah. And he was like, it's like the idea of having the money made people care about his art.
Yeah. Again, that's a big metaphor of society.
Yeah.
Yeah, money talks. All right, so let's jump into one of the first really strange performances. It's from this artist named Mike Carr, and his work was called Cathartic Action, Social Justice Number 5. So this is an Australian artist back in the 70s. What he does, and this is a little bit of a trigger warning. If you're squeamish, take note, but know that this is not real. He takes the prosthetic arm, a fake limb, he stuffs it with blood and meat, and he hacks into it with an axe in front of people. The audience is freaking out. They don't know this isn't a real arm. Mike is actually already missing part of his forearm from birth, so he was born without it. So this prosthetic that's filled with natural gore looks real. And so as he's chopping into this part of his arm, people are fainting, they're throwing up, they're freaking out. But he really leaned into the confusion during the performance, and it was supposed to be visceral and shocking. And what Mike Parr wanted to do was just cause a public reaction. So violence is strangely a really common theme in public art.
That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
That's very... I mean, I could see how you were creating PTSD in somebody unknowingly.
Yeah.
Also, how do I scroll? Is that how Australians spell justice? It says social Gestu gestus.
Where's that?
You said social justice number 5, and then it's spelled G-E-S.
I think justice means like some kind of gesture.
Oh.
Yeah, justice, like I think it's a different terminology to a state of gesturing. Yeah,
social justice. Oh, it's a play on words, I guess.
I'll play on your words. Yeah, but that's a weird one. Some of these, so I would like I said, I tried to keep them somewhat PG because some of these are really...
Because I feel like there's somebody who saw that and was like, I'll just cut off my arm for real.
Well, some of these were really not cool and very R-rated, and I think this one was... I decided to keep it because it's fake. So, but just know that people do messed up stuff.
People do messed up stuff.
I'm going to pronounce this pretty bad, but... This is an artist called Wafa Bilal, and this work is called 3 RDI. So,
or is it 30?
Or it could be 30. It's 3 RDI.
It looks like 30, but yeah, I could see how it could be 3 RDI.
So in 2010, Iraqi artist Wafa Bilal, a refugee who was turned professor, said, you know what? I'm going to shove a camera in the back of my skull. And guess what he did? So he surgically implanted a skull in the back of his... oh my gosh.
Surgically implanted a skull in his skull. He double head. Oh, double head, boy.
He surgically implanted a circular camera in the back of his skull. And what this did was it snapped a photo every minute for a whole year of, I guess, his trail. And the end result was 8,760 pics total. Why did he want to do this? He wanted to document his life in a way that echoed his uprooted past. Constant surveillance, no control. He streamed the whole thing online, turning his existence into a public diary. So think about the mundane parts of life. Shopping, brushing your teeth, but almost with this eerie Truman Show kind of quality. So this project hit a snag in total when his body ended up rejecting the camera. So
I hardly call that a snag. I call that a little bit of a complete collapse. You know what would be crazy is at the end of this, he's like sick and in the hospital and having it removed. And he's just like scrolling through the internet and he sees like an advertisement for like a GoPro. And he's just like, oh, that would have been so much easier.
A GoPro, now made for your skull.
It just says you just have to wear it backwards.
Now with the special fitted skull implantation.
I'm sure that's coming out soon.
God, I hope not. I don't want. Sorry, I'm such a wiggly little.
Well, you're gonna replace your eyeballs with robot eyeballs at some point,
No,
and they're gonna record everything.
I like these. Don't take them from
My
me.
peepers.
Okay, so are you familiar with the artist or the actress Tilda Swinton?
I am familiar. We're not on speaking terms or anything.
But you know who she is?
Yes.
Did you know she was also an artist?
And that makes sense. She's got that vibe.
She does. So she's also a performance artist. So she enacted this performance art routine in New York in 2013 called The Maybe.
See, it's things like that always just bothers me about, like, the guy who's like 3RDI, but I'm sure it's 30.
But it's 30.
And then the maybe. I just like something about it is, it's
They're speaking in riddles for no reason.
It's a clown pulling scarves out over and over and over and over again. I feel like that's the same feeling people get when a clown squeaks his nose or something. You're like, what are you doing? But when I see someone do something like that, I'm like, come on, dude, just name it something.
Yeah, exactly. But the maybe is elusive,
Well,
which I guess was the goal.
Let's find out what the maybe means.
So Tilda Swinton climbs into a glass box and naps. No warning, no schedule. People just stumble across Tilda Swinton snoozing in a glass box in a museum with no context. So it's quiet, elegant, and oddly hypnotic. We don't, she's never really commented on the reasoning behind this. So there's speculations. It's about vulnerability or dreaming. So she's done something like this before in 1997 in London, but the MoMA turned it into kind of a highly publicized cultural moment. So she just got into a box and slept.
I just see like New Yorkers just like, is that fucking Tilda Swinton in a box?
I'm sure that's exactly what happened. I mean, what would you do if you walked around and there was like, I don't know, Fetty Wap just like napping in a glass box in downtown Atlanta?
Do you think somebody was like, is that Tilda Swinton? And somebody else was like, maybe. I feel like it would be way cooler of a performance art piece if she put that box in like some weird part of like Brooklyn or like Hell's Kitchen. You know what I mean? If she was like sleeping in a box, like in like a
Chinatown.
That'd be way more cool than the MoMA.
I think if you go to the MoMA, you would expect to see
exactly. So
that.
It kind of undercuts the like potency of the thing.
Did we go to the MoMA when we were in New York? We went to a lot of different places.
We went to the MoMA.
Yeah.
That was the one that had like the security camera exhibit and had a lot of interesting, fun stuff.
That's a cool place. We need to go back to New York. Okay, this one's by an artist named Orlan. And this is called The Reincarnation of Saint Orlan. I actually really like that name.
I like that title. See, that's what you're supposed to call art, Tilda.
Yeah, Tilda and 30 guy. French artist Orlan, real named Marielle Porte. Again, sorry about the pronunciation. Spent 1990 to 1995, so 5 years, turning her face into a living canvas. This lady, this artist, had 9 plastic surgeries, all in the hopes of morphing into bits of iconic women from art history. So she had a surgery to get Mona Lisa's forehead, Venus, the god of, what is Venus the god of?
She's the god of like fertility and femininity and...
So Venus, the god of fertility and femininity's chin, Europa's mouth. She stayed awake for every single cut, so the surgeries were also part of the art exhibit. So she stayed awake for every cut, decked out in Baroque gowns with poetry or music playing. So it was like a twisted operating theater opera. It was filmed, photographed, and shown as art. Her point, beauty's a construct, and she'd rebuild it her way. Interesting. So this is kind of a creepy take on the power of performance art, of actually getting plastic surgery in a public sense to turn into other artists or
She's
gods or
definitely
people.
weird looking.
Yeah. I encourage a good Google because it's really interesting. And so going through all of this, it's when I'm analyzing it, I'm also thinking, what?
When you're analyzing it, that's her main job here.
I'm also thinking, what if these people, what's the line of mental illness? And you're just like, hey, I'm schizophrenic, go put a glass box around me and we'll say it's performance art. And I'm just going to do crazy stuff. What's the line?
Success.
Really?
Yeah, that's the line. The line is success.
Well, if I ever start acting up, put me outside, put a box around me.
I've slept outside in a box and no one...
A glass box?
Not a glass box.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Nobody,
No. I'm saying if I start acting up, go put a glass box around me.
I'm just going to take you to the MoMA and let you do whatever you want. And we're going to be like, I'm going to be like, excuse me, I'm her manager. This is art. And see if we can make some money or something.
I'm down.
I think that the line for a lot of these people is success. Like, if no one cared or knew who this person was and she was just doing it, she would be a 30-second Instagram reel of, look at this freak who is turning her face into like art pieces. She'd be no different than that lady who like Angelina Jolied herself into a skeleton.
Yeah.
You know, or the human Ken doll. She'd be a Dr. Phil episode, not an exhibiting artist at like major art museums.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I think part of what those people are doing was kind of a public display of art, but I don't know if they were doing it under the guise of, this is performance art.
I don't think it's art, and necessarily. I think it's it's just like their desire to be perceived in a particular way. So I don't think it has like the conscious decision to be art, but in a sense, it's not far off.
Yeah, true.
Like the body mod people who are like, I'm gonna look like a lizard.
Yeah, I'm one crazy day from that. So in 1971, a 25-year-old artist named Chris Burden walks into a gallery, jeans and a white tee, and his friend that is approximately 13 feet in front of him shoots him in the arm with the .22 rifle. On video, you see him flinched, and it's clear that he's hurt. This performance, called Shoot, is a stark look at violence and trust, but he wasn't done being wild. He later, in a subsequent performance, nailed himself to a Volkswagen Beetle's hood, crucifixion style, and had it revved in a garage. And then basically the overarching theme of this is how far can you push your body? And it's definitely the value of shock art.
So you were wondering where the line was? It's between the first and the last story and this story.
Between napping publicly and this.
Well, I feel like having professionals do surgery on your face versus having a buddy shoot you in the arm in like a gallery.
You think he paid him?
No.
He says, hey man, I need you to show up at 3 p.m. and I need you to shoot me in my right arm, and it's my right arm only, buddy. You cannot shoot.
He's like, you're a pretty good shot, huh? He's like, I'm not that bad.
Yeah, so it's strange. The whole thing's strange. So up next, we have an artist called Marina Abramovich.
I think I've heard of that name.
This act is called The Artist is Present.
I think I've heard of this one.
In 2010, at MoMA again, MoMA's a big name, big star, big player in this game. Marina Abramovich sits at a table, silent, staring into a stranger's eyes for 736 hours.
Oh, yeah. I remember this one.
This was a 3-month performance. So she didn't take any breaks. She didn't talk. It was just pure, intense connection. People cried. So it was really... Imagine sitting for 2 hours at a table and then somebody's across from you and you just stare silently. There's no conversation, maybe even minimal facial expressions. But there was something really emotional about this. So people had really emotional reactions. They cried, they laughed, they just locked in. There was a critic, Jerry Saltz, that called it narcissistic but magnetic at the same time. And someone else referred to it as a feedback loop of raw emotion.
How long did you get to look at her? Per person? Because I know you were like, there's like a line. You don't know?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I just know in total she was doing this for 3 months. So
yeah, that's long.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume you show up in a line, it's for a day, you get a certain slot. It's probably like going on a roller coaster. You get, it's kind of a similar thing. So she trained her body for years to endure this. She tried to master stillness. It's less violent and weird than some of the ones we've heard about, but it takes remarkable stamina to sit there and stare at somebody for 3 months.
Yeah. I know that one of the people in the exhibit was an old lover that she had, that they dated for like a year or two, and I think they were like exploring China together, and they decided to go the separate ways, and then they hadn't seen each other in like 40 years.
Wow. And
he showed up. And they sat there, and they did their time, and she cried, and then he walked off.
Wow. I'm going to haunt you like that if we break it up. That's nuts. So, this is a good one. In 2011, Finnish artist Jani Leinonen.
You gotta watch videos of people saying these names before this. Even like the American dude name, you were like Burden? No, Beardan.
I'm not in the business of name saying.
She's not in the business of name. Actually, that's exactly what this business is. This is exactly what you're supposed to be in the business of.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll make it up to all of you. This Finnish artist.
I think it's Yanni.
Yanni. Probably. You want to take a shot at last name?
I think Leinonen.
All right, second. And pals. This is called the Ronald McDonald experiment.
Execution.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we need you to read these things accurate.
So in 2011, these guys with these names kidnap a Ronald McDonald statue from a McDonald's in Finland. They film a mock ransom video, gritty, absurd, demanding that the company spill its secret ingredients, or Ronald will get executed.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
McDonald shrugs and says, and these are real, they're really trying to negotiate with McDonald's, right? They're actually reaching out to the corporate McDonald's headquarters, pretending like they will kill Ronald McDonald. McDonald's responds and says, we don't negotiate with criminals.
Oh, wow.
So guess what they do? They execute Ronald McDonald.
Oh.
They behead the clown on camera. So it's dark humor meets corporate critique, a punk jab at fast food opacity. Legal, it's probably not. And it's definitely theft.
Not. It's definitely not.
So it's referred to as art with a guillotine twist. But I think it's kind of genius.
Yeah. It's definitely provocative.
It's like, I want to kidnap the Burger King or Wendy or the Chihuahua from Taco Bell.
What? I don't even know if the Chihuahua from Taco Bell is... I think he retired, dude. I don't know when the last time I saw the Chihuahua from Taco Bell.
Gone.
He made his millions and got out.
He gone. He gone. All right, we're rounding a corner here. I think this is the last one.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
This one's for, I'm sorry, but Chiching Sai.
Yeah, you're allowed to not be able to say that one.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I really like...
Ching Sai, I think is...
I'm super sorry about that. I mean, no offense by mispronouncing this. This is called 1 year performances. So Taiwanese artist Chiching Sai is the king of endurance. Between 1978 and 1988, he did 6 insane year-long pieces. He 1 year punched a clock every hour.
I like that one. I don't know, something about the clown in me just thinks that's funny.
every hour. Another, he lived in a cage, didn't talk, had no media. That would be so hard. For 1 year, that would be tough. One outside, never entering a building for a whole year. Each year that he did these pieces, they were documented with photos, witnesses, notary stamps to prove that he didn't cheat. So I think the overarching message.
I think I know this guy. I think I've seen some of his work.
Familiar?
Is he the one who? He might be one that there was that he like tied himself to another person for a year.
Probably.
They had
probably
like a 6-foot rope, and they lived tied together for a year. It sounds like his stuff.
Can you imagine how annoyed you would be with somebody having
I
to
would
tie them?
kill you. You would die. I would just be dragging this dead body around.
So this is a whole year. The themes are projected to be time, discipline, sheer will. It's pretty weird. Of course, it's not necessarily the most shocking, but his work is said to be a slow burn that hits deep.
At the beginning of this episode, we discussed how like people could just do anything and call it art. And, there's no really real way of disputing it other than like art critics who sometimes you can't even trust them. You know what I mean? They say some of the goofiest stuff is art, and then Vincent van Gogh was denied being like an artistic eye his entire existence, only to be like one of the masters. So I think that it would be funny that like some people say when you die you have to do like a life review.
Yeah.
You go to wherever's the next beyond and you review your life with some other type of like spiritual being. And I just think it would be funny if this guy got to like heaven and the angel was just like, yeah, none of that was good. Yeah, there's a angelic degree of what art is. All of that was just you being goofy. None of that counted. You punched a clock every hour for a year.
Yeah,
you think that would? Yeah, do something. Paint or do a sculpture. Stop hitting these clocks.
Help somebody every hour.
How many clocks did you go through?
Yeah. He just broke
You could have just sent clocks to people who didn't have clocks. That would have been a better use of your time.
Right. Yeah. That's an interesting thought. Who knows? But so if you were going to do performance art, what would you do? Just off the top of your head.
I don't know if I would do any performance art. I mean, I guess some of the stuff that I do is performance art. I like the idea of like messing around with expectations. And sometimes some of the jokes that I like to do when I'm like riffing on stage is making fun of like cliches that comedians do. And I think it would be really fun to like ridicule social cliches within like certain positions or like careers and like kind of like act out like a cartooned version of expectations. So like going on stage and pretending to be like a 1980s comedian where you're like, what is it about? And just like kind of make fun of Jerry Seinfeld pretend to be Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I have the idea of doing, I do clown stuff and then I've been doing some puppet stuff. And I like the idea of doing a clown and having a puppet clown who also has like a puppet clown on his hand. So it's like a clown puppeting a clown that's got another clown puppet. I don't know, something like that sounds fun. What about you? Where's your performance art?
I would probably take some snapshot of society that's dysfunctional that I'd like to change and have a live reenactment of this dysfunction kind of in a controlled setting, but in a public square so people could really see the abject dysfunction. Having trouble in the medical field, somebody getting the proper care that they need and it taking maybe something severe to get the right care.
Yeah.
Having that play out in a public square in a very...
You just like inject somebody with a curable disease, and then when you're like, the antidote's over there, and then you get over there like, sorry, you're PPO, you're HBO, you're not covered for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just, I don't know, some kind of live theater experience that calls out some kind of society being messed up or whatever.
Well, you know what, like, what I think of when I think of, like, performance art, and this is, like, an episode of Black Mirror that really stuck with me, was the one where the guy kidnapped this woman who's part of the royal family in England and threatened to kill her and sent, like, a severed finger with her ring on it, saying that he would, but for her to be returned safely, the prime minister would have to have sex with a pig on camera. And then it kept coming down to like the wire, and then eventually the prime minister did it to save the lady. But he released the woman before the deadline, so the prime minister didn't have to do it. And the severed finger he sent was his own. And he wrote like this long explanation that it was like his attempt at breaking into like the next degree of performance art by like forcing the prime minister to like have sex with a pig on national television.
Yeah, Black Mirror is a show.
It's up there.
It is a show. All right, so do we think anything's going to really come about in the digital age with performance art in 2025? Because I think that it would. There's a lot of AI. There's a lot of VR kind of stuff happening.
Would you say the thing they just did with Donald Trump and Elon is performance art?
No, I wouldn't call it performance art. I would call it really funny, though. The foot sucking video.
Yeah, I guess hackers hacked into the TVs in the cafeteria of a government building and showed an AI video of Trump sucking on Elon's toes. I think that's kind of performance art.
I don't think that was the goal. Maybe it is. I mean,
it's like activism.
Who's performing though?
I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, I mean it's AI, but it's art.
So artists now are live streaming stunts, so they can do performance art not in a public space. They can just live stream it publicly. They can use Twitter or X, Twitch. They can use AI to co-create these VR experiences. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that in the next coming few years, and interactive pieces. So experiential marketing and things like that are getting really big, and that will most definitely veer off into the art world. So humans always have that urge to shock and awe and create visceral moments with each other.
Do you think it's going to get crazier because of everybody's brain rot? I feel like everything's been taken to like the 100th degree. Like if you look at like what reality TV shows looked like in the beginning, where they're just like, we put 8 people in a house. And then now what reality TV shows are like, it's like, marry someone you've never seen in 3 weeks. You're like, oh, wow. I think it's just all ramping up. So it's like,
we're getting really desensitized to things.
Like, when is it that, like, that guy who had his buddy shoot himself in the arm, like, the next level of that is just like, all right, shoot me in the face.
Yeah. Kill me.
Kill me, daddy.
And me, daddy.
And then people just stand up and they're like...
Yeah, it seems very dystopian.
Yeah.
I would hope that there's some positivity that results, and then it's not all like
positive. I think the Tilda Swinton one was kind of cute. Like as far as it's not super disturbing, you know. Where's the not super disturbing performance art? Why is it always gotta be like super aggressive? Why do people have to like?
It's on Nickelodeon. It's
no,
blue.
The performance art they did on Nickelodeon.
It's what's that dogs or cats or dogs or cows name? Blue.
You talking about Bluey?
Yeah, Bluey.
I don't even know what channel Bluey's on, but I know it's a dog being a dog.
Bluey just goes out and is like, I'm gonna do an act of kindness in front of all these strangers. And then Bluey just cuts his freaking limbs
Mr.
off.
Beast is like a weird version of performance art. I haven't seen the new show, but apparently it's like there's like a bunch of money and there's all these contestants and like they'll be on teams, but he gives you the opportunity to like screw over your teammates for a smaller amount of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And so he's constantly making these like psychological side deals.
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
My performance art is going to be murdering you one day.
He's like, kill your teammate for $1 million.
Murdering you on this podcast. All right, yeah, so that's pretty much all I got.
All right.
That's all I got.
That's all we got. There's nothing else, chickens.
Yeah. We might bust out a performance for you one of these days.
We should make that like one of our goals for Rotisserie Chicken. All right, we're done.